Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, J Gilbo 11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J Clay. Taking a look at tonight's 8-game slate, which relatively large for a Thursday, so that's nice. But what's not nice is the pitching. But the only good thing is you're not paying up, so you can kind of look at cores. You can also be super contrarian and kind of even pick on some of these chalky bad pitchers like Wade Miley or Rick Porcello and kind of go against the grain.
Yeah. If you're a big multiple lineup guy, this might be the night you choose to do like 40 lineups because it could go so many different directions. I mean, obviously the pitching is very, very volatile tonight. So lots of different ways to go. Obviously there's Coors again. So definitely be loading up on that and some stacks. But yeah, definitely a wide open night.
Yeah, and look at the catcher here, and this is a spot where I'm kind of looking to pay down at. And I mean, outside of Jonathan Lucroy, it's easy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I like Matt Wieters. I mean, if I'm kind of paying up, I mean, 360 Woboff righties this season has been very solid. Porcello's not a guy that really scares me away. He limits damage somewhat, but he never has a clean game. And I think you can look at this Oriole team kind of, as a third, fourth team stack option on tonight's slate.
Yeah, the Boston media just slowly chips away at every starting pitcher, it seems, and into dust. So a once great pitcher in Rick Porcello is now just relieving damage, not allowing too much damage. But yes, that is the correct analysis.
That's his quality highlight. He doesn't give up too much damage.
Cervelli, I think, is in play against Chen. I mean, and then you get down, as we saw last night, with the spot start for the Reds. I mean, Tucker Barnhart, if he's in there, throw him in for sure. I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at there for 3K.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. And Cervelli's a guy, I mean, Pirates got shut down by Conley. Chen doesn't miss as many bats as Conley does, so I'm kind of heading back and hoping to get Pittsburgh at some lower ownership because they do have a ton of right-handed bats that hit lefties well.
Right.
I do like that. I also like Cameron Rupp. It's kind of a cheap GPP swerve just because Chase Anderson has reverse splits.
Bro, you can't go at Chase, man.
I'm going to Chase, man. Come sorry. On, there's no way I am using Chase, so why not? Why not get some Phillies in there and be different tonight?
Oh, man.
Sorry.
Come on. He'll have a beer with you after.
With some Phillies, I'm going to be smiling like Chase,
He's just one of those guys that when he walks into the room, the energy just changes and his smile just lights up the room,
You know what else changes? That money line when it goes when you play hitters against Chase.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, too much lower here.
You don't really need to.
It's kind of slim pickings. I think the strategy where you just wait whose spot's starting and batting seventh, it has worked really well actually over the last few weeks. So I think that's kind of what I'm gonna see as well. Because there's always one or two guys that are just pure punts that end up spot starting. So I'd keep an eye on that as the day comes out and as lineups come out.
Yeah, me too. And Derek Norris, kind of another name there. I think, using Padres right-handed is going to be kind of a contrarian move tonight just because I do think because of the state of pitching, Wade Miley is going to be somewhat popular just because the Padres' big strikeout rate. And Norris is a guy, and we'll talk about some others down the line, but certainly in play.
Definitely.
First base here, and first base is kind of simple. It's a pay-up spot for me, and I mean, David Ortiz continues to crush. I mean, he just becomes the touted guy every night. But you also got Joey Votto going up against Butler, and I think that's kind of the number one just because of Coors. And Butler, I mean, 43-2 WOBA to lefty since 2014, big 1.91 home runs per nine. It just makes Votto and Bruce so much more appealing. And then you add in the Coors factors there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Ortiz and Votto are really clear top options. I think you got Cabrera chilling at 4,500 against Pineda. That's a nice matchup. I think it's somewhat viable to go Hanley over Ortiz just to be contrarian, but that really hasn't worked out much. And Ortiz is so hot. in your main lineups, I think you have to go Ortiz here, especially on this night of pitching. It's pretty easy to pay up. So getting an Arenado and Ortiz actually isn't too difficult tonight.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Cabrera, that's a nice $1,000 difference from Ortiz.
Mm-hmm.
Pineda, I mean, he's been horrible. I mean, since 2014, 138 home runs per nine. This season, I mean, 391 WOBA allowed to righties. He's been just thrashed every time you go out. And I think this Tigers team is going to be pretty popular tonight, outside of Coors.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Looking lower, Adam Lind, he's been hitting well. Decent matchup. I mean, A-Rod, he still hasn't come through with my 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts and a homer. He's just been doing the strikeout part. So a little tough to trust right now. So you're probably not going with him either.
No, if I'm paying down, I mean, it's a GPP night anyway.
Yeah.
Justin Bour is a guy who I'll look at just because Nicasio's struggled
Mhm.
greatly with lefties. I mean, 401 WOBA since 2014. And Bour, I mean, a decent guy. He's got some pop. I mean, 262 ISO in that span. So I don't mind him as kind of a cheap option if you're paying up at other spots. If you're going to load up on the Coors outfield and maybe pay down in infield, it just kind of depends on where your lineup construction is going.
Right, and people can say as much as they want that the day before slate doesn't affect them, but when you look at Mookie Betts' ownership from 2 days ago to yesterday, it affects people's decision making.
I was
So,
all in. It affected me. I was like,
yeah,
I'm
like
tossing more shares than I should.
so the night before definitely does affect people. So I think that the Marlins is an interesting contrarian play. Some of those strong hitters, just because they got shut down yesterday and they probably failed people. So I do like Bour. I think that's a really good call. What do we think about Chris Carter with that home run power? We touching him against Eckhoff, or is he off limits?
He's off limits. I mean, the Brewers are kind of. Eckhoff's a guy I don't mind tonight. I think the only guy I could possibly use is just Ryan Braun from that lineup.
Yeah, so
Um,
standalone, one off type.
yeah, I just like Bour a little bit more. I would rather kind of roll David Freese at a similar
Mhm.
price tag as well.
All right, in that same vein, Ryan Howard versus Chase. I'm guessing you're okay with going that as a tournament type move there.
I don't even know if Ryan Howard's going to be in. To be honest, I'm not sure if he is.
Hmm.
I think he's
Yeah.
riding the pine at the moment.
Man, that's awkward. Yeah, so if Tommy Joseph does go in there, then I guess you fire him in too. Depends on what happens, but yeah, I think a Philly stack is in order, which is once every 2 months, but fire one out there in a tournament.
Look at second base here, and this is kind of a situation where once again, you got the top options, but they're all priced over 5K. And it's just kind of an easy come down to go to DJ LeMahieu at 4,500.
Yeah. That's the guy I was eyeing. I think with this series and with that Reds bullpen, I mean, and Simon, it's just like there's too much upside to really ignore in your first lineup or second lineup, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And uh, you can kind of look lower. I mean, if Dietrich is in the lineup, he would be a guy I'd consider. Josh Harrison at 3,700 is still a nice discount. He's hit lefties very well this season. Uh, Brian Dozier, I mean, he's really struggled this year, but he has immense power against left-handers. I mean, a contrarian play, and I think at second base you can kind of spin down because, one, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Cano at 5,200. I don't mind Kinsler, but I think he's more of a stacking option. I think that's how I'll really treat Pedroia and Kinsler tonight because
Mhm.
LeMahieu's just that solid one-off guy that you can get there.
Right. And I know you're not going at Carrasco, but I think Whit Merrifield is a decent value at 3,600. So probably more of a tournament guy, definitely not a cash guy. I mean, I don't even know what a cash person is on this slate, but um, I think he's been hitting solid and I think he can do something in that matchup.
Yeah, another one. I mean, 3,100. Starlin Castro. I mean, should be a low on play tonight going against the lefty there.
Hmm.
I mean, 321. WOBA against lefties this season, not bad. 176 ISO, and Boyd hasn't really been anything special.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that call. Go with that Yankees lineup. I mean, they randomly hit, but I think this is a good night to look for some of those guys to randomly hit, like Castro.
Yeah. Third base, and while yes, the Rockies really disappointed us yesterday. I mean, it's still you head back to the well
Yeah.
with them,
Yeah.
and Arenado at 5,400 is still kind of that guy.
Honestly, even more so. If he was coming off back to back 2 home run games, it'd be like, all right, well, he's probably not going to do that today. But I think he does
He's
have
no
that
Mookie
type of.
Betts.
Yeah, he's no Mookie Betts. I mean, 5 home runs and 7 at bats. All right, Mookie, get out of here. Get out of here and get out of everyone's lineups from yesterday that weren't mine. Um, Arenado, yes, you just go back to the well. It's another good matchup. Again, Reds, that bullpen, the starters, his home run power, everything. It's just all there. So it didn't work out yesterday. It worked out the day before. So 50-50 shot, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Arenado's been solid. I mean, this season, 379 WOBA, 272 ISO. I mean, just an 8.5% strikeout rate against right-handers. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the guy just puts the bat on the ball, and he's a solid option.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely don't mind coming off of him to go to a Manny Machado against Porcello. I mean, Porcello's, as we mentioned, I mean, he's not a guy to kind of shy away from on tonight's slate.
Right. I think that's more of a contrarian move, obviously, off of Arenado, but it is $700 difference if you're looking to stack hitters or something. But Kyle Seager, pretty intriguing. I think he's going to be really low owned tonight. Just because I mean Arenado was 50% in tournaments last night, so I can't imagine. Maybe it dips down to 40, but I can't see it getting into the 30s even, just because people are just going to go back to it. Like I don't know why you wouldn't. So I think Seager's going to be super low owned as kind of a guy going under the radar below Machado. So I'm kind of in on that.
Yeah, I like Seager. I mean, you look at Petco, I mean, it's average for lefty power, so it's not a bad ballpark for lefties. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we've seen Seager. I mean, he's been absolutely on fire, especially this series. I mean, 8 hits over the 3 games against the Padres, and it's not like he's going to face another dominant pitcher. So, I mean, you kind of expect that
Right.
train to keep rolling. So, I do like that call as being contrarian.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can kind of spin down here at third base too. I mean, guys like Nick Castellanos. We mentioned Pineda's struggles. Castellanos has hammered righties. He's certainly in play for me. And I do think David Freese is an option. I mean, he's hit lefties well this year, 465 WOBA. I mean, as he has in the past. So I think there are numerous ways you can go. Jungho Kang is another one. So I think you can sit in that mid tier and kind of be different tonight.
Yeah, no, that 3K to 4K range is solid, especially in the middle there, like you mentioned with Castellanos, our boy Motter, um, Trevor Plouffe. I mean, some of these guys are solid options. So definitely looking in that range to sort of pay down here if you can. But
Yeah,
Arenado is the main move.
yeah, definitely. Looking at shortstop, and uh, I'm not too comfortable paying up. I don't mind Bogarts up top. I mean, obviously Trevor Story is in play, but it's a pricey move. And I think with Cozart sitting there with such a
Mm-hmm.
dramatic price difference at 4,200, who's been very consistent in this Coors game or in this Coors series, I think you just kind of he becomes my number one just because of price considered.
Yeah, I think so too. Villar feels really overpriced to me. I mean, it's not a perfect matchup for him either against Eichhoff. He's honestly one of the better pitchers on the slate. So, I'm not loving that matchup. But yeah, Cozart's the move for me, or Brad Miller. But I like that range because I don't. I mean, whenever you don't doubt Red Sox, so Xander always in play, but I'm looking at Cozart here at 42.
Yeah, me too. And uh, I mean, outside of that, I mean, it's kind of a slim pickings night at shortstop. And
Yeah,
um,
Jordy Mercer.
yeah, Mercer's a guy, 3,200. I mean, likely going to be up in the top half of the lineup. And
Hmm.
he's a guy who's hit lefties well in his career, 367 WOBA. So, yeah, he's about as low as I'm going to go. You don't need to really dumpster dive at shortstop tonight.
No, honestly, other than catcher, I don't really think you have a reason to dumpster dive. We were talking before the show that maybe you want to leave some of your lineups with a little extra cash especially for tournaments, just to be different. Because a lot of people try to fill in max amount and try to get it to 100 or $0 left. And a way to be contrarian in the tournament is to leave extra cash if you're comfortable with the way you constructed your lineup initially. So keep that in mind when you're building tonight.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. Outfield, and this is a situation where this
All
is
right.
multiple lineup wise. This is those top five guys: Adam Duvall, Jay Bruce, Blackman, Gonzalez, and Betts. They're all plug and plays, and I think that's where you start to mess around with lineup construction as far as multiple lineups go, and mix and match, because I do like all five, and not much separates them for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I do think you can kind of go that route and just kind of you make five lineups, and maybe you put Coors in two, and then Mookie Betts into one, and do that, and just kind of go around.
Right. And that's what I was thinking with Ortiz too. Make a Coors stack or a red stack, and on your third or fourth one, substitute in Ortiz for Votto, or get weird when like substitute Betson for Duvall or something like that. I think that's a good way to switch things up. But yeah, I mean these top five are money. So
Yep.
I think all of them have a good shot to get 10 to 15 tonight. And obviously they have some home run upside as well. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of points coming from those five.
Definitely. I mean, then you even spin down Billy Hamilton at 4,400s, enjoyed Coors this series.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a value in comparison to those other bats. And JD Martinez 4,300 is a guy I'm looking at. I just think this Tigers team's going to mash pay. I don't see anything that has come out that he's fixed something. I mean, he's been horrible all year. And you look at Martinez, I mean, big 239 ISO against righties this year, and at that price tag, I mean, there's a lot of upside.
Definitely. And you mentioned Ryan Braun. I think that's a good play, 4,400. I kind of like the Pirate stack tonight. I think I'm going back to it. I'm okay with it now. So Marte, McCutchen, all that jazz. And then Miami again. I think that's a pretty interesting contrarian stack with Yelich and Bohr and Stanton and all that. So, and Dietrich if he plays. So that's kind of what I'm looking at too. So that kind of shifts things. Mark Trumbo been crushing. So we going with Trumbo?
I think you can. I mean,
3,900. That's pretty cheap for Porcello.
yeah, it is, and I think I do like that. And Matt Kemp's another one at 4,200. Um, kind of like a Derek Norris, where you expect Wade Miley to be kind of higher owned tonight. But I mean, look at Kemp. I mean, he's hit lefties well this year. I mean, 375
Right.
WOBA, 370 ISO. So he's kind of looked like his old self against left-handers, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a good way to get some cheap exposure.
Yeah, definitely. And he's never going to be high owned just because he's on the Padres. So
Yeah,
that's definitely a good way to differentiate yourself.
yeah. And another Philly guy like Odubel Herrera against Chase Anderson there, 3,900. So not a bad price tag. And you look at that game, I mean, over under of 8. So it's expected to be fairly friendly for hitters.
Yeah, and then your boy from yesterday, Gutierrez, Franklin Gutierrez, he's been doing well. He's been hitting value like every night of late. So he's
Yeah, it's still
definitely
too cheap
someone
for
to,
me.
huh?
Still too cheap for me. I mean, I'll keep
Yeah,
going back there if he's in the
definitely.
top half of the lineup.
I mean, he's had over 7 DK points in like 7 straight games. So I'd keep going to that until he gets in that 4K range. Then obviously you have to decide if he's worth more than those other options. But for now, keep firing away.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to look low, I mean, I think you can take a look at this guy, and that's Byron Buxton. He could be a key focus to kind of maybe get a couple more 5K guys into your lineups, and that's just because he is so cheap. But went down to the minors. I mean, had a solid minor league stint there, 336 average, 6 homers, 4 stolen bases in that time. And if he can translate those numbers into the majors, it's going to be a solid value because he's below 3K. And you look at Matt Moore, I mean, this guy's been up and down. I mean, but 355 WOBA to right-handers since 2014. And at that price tag, I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah. Another thing to look at, Detroit stack. Maybe an Upton 3,500. I think that might be one where you leave a little extra cash on the table at the end with Cabrera and JT Martinez and all that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, both of them are cheap, 3,500. That's in good spots. I think you can pick up Pineda kind of quite a bit, especially with some of those later guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to wrap things up here with the DK Daily Trot. Be sure to check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.